So that, how many maintenance workers were we talking about?
We are not during this meeting going to get into, at least I'm not going to get into it, in terms of a discussion of anything regarding personnel. I will not talk about any of those issues.
So what you're proposing is to have the maintenance component now from the parks be under the DPW. Is that correct?
We're talking about unified labor, separating the activities based upon function, labor with labor, programs, and creative development in another group.
Well, basically what he's talking about in plain English is that some people from the Recreation Commission, Recreation Parks, will report to the DPW, and then when Recreation needs those people, they can borrow those people.
No, they're not reporting to the DPW. There would be a new department formed that would be having these services in them. And new departments, as in the past, will have an accountability and responsibility to work hand in hand to provide services. That's how this needs to work. Management needs to be put into place. This is not an automatic.
Oh, okay, so I misunderstood. Instead of a division, it's going to be a department? The maintenance is going to be a department?
I do not understand the nature of your question. I'll repeat back again. There will be a unified organization, a department, and within that department, we will have building and grounds, we will have roads, we will have sanitation, we will have parks. That will be a standalone, freestanding department. In addition to that department, we will have another department known as Parks and Recreation, which exists today. The only difference for Parks and Recreation today, as it would be envisioned within this scenario, is that the labor component of Parks and Recreation would be indirectly managed. It will require the department head to speak with the department head of the group called, for lack of a name for that group at this point, called services.
So I am to then assume that this labor group called services is not going to report to Recreation, or will they report to Recreation as a direct report?
No, we are forming a scenario where we're going to have a division of function.
Okay.
Functional excellence from a labor standpoint will be residing in the services group. Functional excellence from a management and planning of recreational programs and parks and field activities will reside within what's called the Parks and Recreation Department.
So if the Recreation Department needs additional help, where will they go to get it?
In the event the Recreational Department needs additional help, the Recreation Department will plan appropriately with the department head of this services organization and develop a workflow plan, identify what their needs are, and it then would be incumbent upon this new services group to provide those services because they would be accountable and responsible for taking on that responsibility.
So I have just another question. Well, I think we've beaten that one to death. The Recreation Department now, the fields are maintained beautifully. Everything's done just beautifully. So if we're to start moving around personnel, departments, whatever, what benefit of it to Recreation would this accomplish? Now, I have a report here. We talked about overtime, and I have a 5-year average. I didn't want to do it year to year because things changed. Last year we didn't have Hanover Township Day, so maybe you could say that the overtime for the Parks and Recreation would be a little lower. So I took a 5-year average of DPW, a 5-year average of Parks and Recreation, and Parks and Recreation from last year to 5 years ago, they went down in their overtime 41%. DPW went down in their overtime 15%. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe Parks and Recreation is a better handled department, and maybe these maintenance people should be under the Department of Recreation rather than your other division.
Well, there was a study that was conducted last year, and there is no such structural organization that came back within Morris County that has services aligned under the Parks group. Roads, sanitation, building and grounds are not aligned within the Parks Recreation Department. So this new idea has not been proven.
Now, will we ever get a report of exactly how much this would save or anything like, will we ever get a factual report, actual numbers, rather than it's going to, we hope for, it should, it would? Are we gonna get some factual information?
I think Silvio can address some of the dollar figures. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes,
Committee member?
yes.
Current or what we believe in the future?
Okay, let me preface this with, the DPW has, is down, how many men?
4 full-times, 1 part-time, so 4.5.
And when was the last time one of those people was on staff?
I believe, I know at least 1, if not 2, left in 2009.
Early or late?
1 in the middle. I'd have to check the other one.
Well, basically, if some of those, we've not had staff for 2 years in those positions. Work is being done, getting done, overtime has actually went decreased, so I'm thinking, why do we need to hire those people at all? If you're down 2 people, you're all doing the work, getting a little overtime, why do we have to hire those people? That's not a cost.
I can address the overtime issue, Mr. Wright, I think pretty effectively. We have instituted in both departments, in the recreation and also in DPW, policies, you know, as far as the Saturday is concerned. The garbage actually reduced our overtime, the way we collect it. We've done a lot of work in that area to keep our overtime. I mean, that's been a major focus.
Right.
Right? So
And you're doing the work.
why did we decrease it? Because we worked hard at it. That's the answer to the question. I mean,
No.
we've reduced Saturday pickup and Saturday overtime substantially. That has made up a significant portion of it. In terms of DPW, it's hard to compare the two. Snowstorms are just unpredictable.
No, that wasn't,
You know.
you might have, I might have not spoken loud enough, so I'll restate that. If we've been missing these people for 2 years in DPW and all the work is being done and the overtime is being decreased during that time, why do we need to replace those people?
Well, I think I addressed that in my original statement. The work is getting done. Our crews in both departments are feeling overwhelmed, and that was in the written reports. You know, with
So
the
by
amount of work
combining
that-
them, they'll be less overwhelmed?
Oh, absolutely. With a larger labor organization, you can actually take people and you can plan your surge needs. It takes planning. It's not something, you know, that you can do. But I guess my point was, when I was trying to deliver it was, if we keep on the current trend of just not replacing and going lean and mean, the mean is showing its ugly head. We're getting to a point, one of our reports said that the crews were overwhelmed during their times when they prepare fields. Our crews, there are days we didn't even send out people to pick up leaves. We just didn't have people. We got ourselves down to the lean and mean point where from this point forward, we need to make some changes. We need to look at this different. It can't be government as usual. And I think that's my point I was
Oh,
trying to
yes, I totally agree. No government as usual. Have you looked into outsourcing the leaf collection so that that would free up our men in that peak season? Have you looked into outfits
outsourcing
that-
leaves, no, that's a
Yeah.
good suggestion. We can
Okay.
also look into
There's
that.
also a lot of other
We've
suggestions
looked
to
into the
save
past,
money.
into outsourcing the garbage, but we always felt
Well,
that,
that's not it, just outsourcing the leaves, or outsourcing the cutting of the maintenance. of fields,
why
the
wouldn't we
grounds.
looked into other things? The garbage, why wouldn't we look into that? I mean, that's been
Why
recommended.
did we look into that?
We've looked in, I was trying to explain, we looked into the past outsourcing our garbage collection.
Right.
And we felt that the quotes that came back may have been low for the first year to come in, and we were concerned that those costs would rise as they have in other communities. Usually the first year's the least expensive, and we didn't see a cost savings. We tried it, I think, first with the condos to get quotes in, if I recall. We didn't see a cost savings. You know, we saw more of a
Well, I
break even.
totally agree of not outsourcing the sanitation.
Well, I think that
But
needs to
leaf
be looked at
collection?
on a regular basis, to look at all these things. You know, as we go on, and we lose people by attrition, that may be the solution. And I think what it is we need to take ourselves from now and start looking, how are we going to do this? You know, our people are our best assets, but they are our most expensive assets. And this entire process, I think, has been developed so nobody loses their jobs, unlike what we've read in the paper today from Morristown. I think they said they're going to eliminate 14, was it, foremen? This process has not been in that vein. We are trying to retain our best assets, our people.